Lori with YesLouisville.com, and I'm here at Fall City Brewing Company about to sit down with one of Louisville's and the nation's premier independent filmmakers, Mr. Stu Pollard. Now, Stu is from Louisville, born and raised, and has been deep in the independent film industry for 20 years, which tells you he loves it because it's hard. So we're going to sit down and talk with Stu about his latest project with Lunacy Films called Rust Creek, shot in and around Greater Louisville, utilizing tons of Kentuckians on the team. So let's go sit down with Stu and learn about this project that drops tomorrow nationwide online and will be available here in Louisville for you to see at Village 8 theaters next weekend. Hey everybody, we're sitting down with Stu Pollard of Lunacy Films talking all things Rust Creek. Stu, thanks so much for being here with us today at Fall City. We're excited to chat.
My pleasure.
So you've been doing this for a long time, 20 years, right? That's a long time in one industry with people kind of jumping all over the place these days, changing jobs left and right. What is it you love so much about independent film?
That's not an easy question to answer, but probably the thing I love the most about it is the collaborative process. Each film in one kind of way is kind of like summer camp, because it's this different collection of people, and they come from all walks of life, and they're all specialists in these wild and crazy categories. So, and then when you wrap, everyone sort of goes their separate ways, and you may work with some of them again, but no two crews are ever exactly alike. During that production phase, you have a few different brief moments in time where you can step back, take a breath, and realize that this amazing collection of incredibly talented, hardworking people are all there together because of some crazy idea you thought up years ago.
Yeah, and then you get to bring it to life, which is so amazing. Yeah. And I bet that every one of those experiences change you as a producer, as a writer, as a director, that you are evolving constantly.
I learned more on this particular film, on Rust Creek, than any previous one. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I produced this one. I didn't direct it. And so I give Jen McGowan, our director, a lot of credit for that. And she worked her tail off on this movie, really works harder than anybody I've ever worked with in this business. And I've been at it more than 20 years now.
That's high praise.
And she brought a lot of people onto this film that helped make it so good, and cashed in a lot of favors. So it's her baby in a lot of ways. And anyway, and shooting in the wintertime as opposed to the summertime, that was really a first for me. And
for a lot of your team too, right? Adapting to those challenges. And
yeah, so anytime you shoot in Kentucky, the weather's going to be a factor just by the nature of where we live. But shooting in the wintertime definitely brought its own set of challenges for everybody, no matter where they were from. And most of the time, that was challenges we welcomed because it served the story.
Sure.
But when there were days things we didn't anticipate, things like power distribution and batteries failing.
Did you buy a lot of hot hands to warm up your batteries?
We definitely should have invested in their stock before we started filming, because they definitely probably saw an uptick in sales while we were shooting.
Powered by hot hands.
Powered by hot hands, absolutely.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about this project. We're not going to give away the plot because we want people to go and see this project. We want them to digitally download it. We want them, if they're here in Louisville, to go to Village Creek next week.
Village 8.
Village 8, thank you.
But it should be nicknamed Village Creek.
Village Creek, why not? Really? Just Village Creek. Rust Creek, Village Creek, that's on my mind. What is it about this that is so different that people really need to come and experience?
Well, I'd say, first off, it was shot entirely in Kentucky, so that's something for people here locally to just go check out, because you don't see that every day. But secondly, it's certainly, you watch the trailer and you're going to be set up with that expectation that it's a woman in peril thriller, a typical genre movie, and it's not that. So go in with expectations that it's going to be something that takes some twists and turns that you don't expect. And it's going to make you think a little bit. All the performances, there's 7 significant characters in the film. All the performances are three-dimensional and well-rounded. And again, that's a tribute to our cast and to Jen and to Julie, our writer. So I think it's a film that's very human in a lot of respects, and the one of the reviews we got on it yesterday described the violence in the film as in no way exploitive, but extremely, I can't remember the word they used. They just said it's extremely cruel in terms of how you feel when certain people meet their demise because you've come to care about them.
Wow.
And that's even the bad guys. So anyway, hopefully that's not a spoiler. We might have to cut that if it's a spoiler.
I love it when films do unexpected things. I love coming in with an expectation and leaving just rocked by what they accomplish, whether that's an individual that really shines from the cast or something that they accomplish without even words, just the underlying themes and tones that make you think about who you are and your humanity. And that's kind of how this project got its very first start, right? Your thoughts on your own humanity and having an experience on a trip as a young man, yeah?
Yeah, mortality is the thing I discovered at 22, where I went in a very brief moment from being bulletproof to being mortal, and there's a few carryovers in the story, which is that made it to the screenplay. Obviously, there's many things that are different, but the big thing that I did when I was Sawyer's age was I jumped in the car and got on a road trip, and I didn't tell anybody that I was leaving, and I didn't tell anybody where I was going, and that was dumb. and I realized just how dumb when I got caught at 2 a.m. in a blinding snowstorm in the mountains of Western Maryland. So I had a nice long time for a few hours to contemplate just how stupid that was, and that I was indeed very mortal, and there were probably more important things in life than trying to get to where I was going at that time. So anyway, and that's kind of how it started, and that stuck with me obviously for a long time and became the story that I pitched the writer a few decades later.
And speaking of the writer, so it's another power lady on your team, yeah, and that's your director and your writer are not just the only ladies that really brought a lot of skill to the team at Rust Creek. Tell me about that.
Well, more than half of our department heads on Rust Creek are women, and that's not an accident. But it became. It's become apparent pretty early on that we didn't really look at them as women filmmakers. We looked at them as great filmmakers. And obviously I hired Julie to write the story and hired Jen to direct the movie. So I hired those two women. Jen is somebody who's been at the forefront of gender equality in filmmaking for a long time now. She's got a website called Film Powered. So you can't work with Jen McGowan and not wake up to the fact that there's a lot of incredibly talented women in this business that need to be given more opportunities. So Jen was instrumental in us getting more women on board. We've had a mandate at our company for a long time to have a greater focus on diversity in who we hire, but Jen's really the straw that stirred the drink in terms of getting this crew. Getting more women on board on this crew, and we're grateful for that opportunity.
Awesome. What was your overall cruise experience filming in Kentucky?
It's every single film that we've had the opportunity to make here has been great, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's always been a beautiful place to shoot. It's always been an incredibly supportive community. Because of the uptick in production, thanks to the incentive over the last few years, there's even more talented people here to help us make our films. So there's always been a core group of people here who are incredibly talented. Sorry, that was my phone. But now there's even more folks here who are gifted at what they do. One of the things we're doing to try to say thank you to the law enforcement and fire in particular is we're buying a ticket for anybody who wants to go, who's part of the first responder world. So if you're fire, police, sheriff, paramedic, if you show your badge at the Village 8 anytime after the film opens on the 11th, I'll buy your ticket. So there's just lots of reasons it's great to shoot here, and I think that's one of the nice things to the people who come in from out of town is
right.
You said you looked at some of the behind the scenes featurettes. So
I did.
People are always amazed at the hospitality that we extend, and whether that's how friendly the locations are or the fact that people do tend to stop when they see us on the side of the road and ask us if we actually need help, as opposed to the fact that we're just filming.
Right.
and the food's always good. And,
you eat well in Kentucky, always, especially in Louisville.
Yeah, just lots of touches like that you hope, even with the uptick in production, don't go away, because there's lots of upsides to shooting in larger cities where there's more production, there's deeper crews and things like that, but the populations do get a little jaded with too much production going on. So hopefully we can strike a balance between becoming more production friendly while not losing our hospitable side.
There you go. So stay hospitable, everybody. It's important. We want to bring industry to the state and to the city, but we want to be sure they always have that awesome experience whenever they're here with us.
Yep.
So I want to ask you just a couple of totally non-Rust Creek related questions. Just you, Stu, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend. Take a drink. Here we go. All right, so I did dive into the Lunacy YouTube channel, and I saw that some of your folks in LA tried bourbon, and that you yourself are a bourbon guy. So right now, because I know this changes all the time if you're like me, what's your favorite bourbon at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I'm going to give you a multi-tiered answer.
That's fair, I'll take it.
I'll tell you my favorate bourbon to taste is one that's very challenging to get a hold of, and I'm proud of the fact that I have a bottle and I've kept it close to the vest, and that's Michter's Toasted.
Oh, high five for Michter's.
And I just love the way that tastes.
Also, they're Lady Power down at Michter's too.
All right, well, but I hear they're issuing a new release of that soon because it had gone away for a little while. But I'm very partial to New Riff, which is out of Newport, Kentucky. They're doing a bourbon tasting with us tomorrow at the Wine Rack.
Very cool.
Also with Daniel Hill, who I think you'll meet shortly on this channel. And Knob Creek's another favorite because we got to pick out a barrel with them last summer. And
a Lunacy barrel?
A Lunacy barrel.
Excellent.
And I'm hoping we get to pick out another barrel with New Riff later this year.
Very cool.
New Riff, I should say. So those are a few of my favorites. What was I saying to somebody earlier about coffee? It's like, I love coffee too. It's after the first couple, once your palate's corrupted, I become very much a lover of all bourbon.
Oh yeah. Don't discriminate.
So those are a few of my faves, but like you said, it can change based on what's available and who's pouring.
There you go. All right, one more question. You love stories. You always have an eye for stories, and sometimes they're from experiences, sometimes they're things that you see in the world. If you could make a film from any book without thought of budget or limit, what book story right now would you say you'd love to make as a film?
Well, that's a tricky one to answer because we have several books under option as part of our company. So I would selfishly say the one that I would love to make is a story called Wonder Dog. That's a book I own the rights to.
Awesome.
That is a sort of a Southern fried version of, it's like Shameless meets Veep, but all set in the South, and it's a political satire, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's sarcastic and it's political and it's thoughtful, and it's written by a gentleman who's an English professor down at Johns Hopkins.
Really?
So it's really smart. And I've had the rights to it for a long time, and we're trying to turn it into a television series right now. So, and it's a great read. It deals with a lot of hot button issues, but it keeps it whimsical and keeps you thinking. And anyway, I'm hoping that's something that's in our not too distant future as a company.
I love it. You just made me want to read it and see it. So cheers to bringing that one to life and many more in the world of Lunacy Films.
All right.
Guys, this has been a great talk with Stu Pollard. Please make sure that you either download this film and watch it or head out to Village 8 sometime starting next weekend. Click on the link below to get your tickets, and don't miss it. It's here for a limited time, and you're going to want to catch Rust Creek.